Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Season's greetings. It's Country Cool Store's Grand Christmas promotion. Spend any amount at our mini mart or wholesale division located at Penmata St. David and enter to win lots of prizes, wines, picnics, turkeys, shopping vouchers, and in-store discounts. Shop and enter to win 1, 2, or 3 grand prizes. First prize, $1,000 shopping spree. Second prize, $500 shopping spree. And third prize, $250 shopping spree. Promotion runs 1st December to the 20th. Terms and conditions apply. See store or call 440-3335 for more details. It's Country Cool Store's Grand Christmas promotion.
Welcome to Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. Eddie Frederick.
Wonderful, folks, and welcome once again. Of course, in just 1 week, we will be celebrating our Christmas 2023 with family and friends. Those of us who have both will be looking forward to a great time, while, of course, we must all remember those who don't and include them in our kindness this season. I continue to wish all of you well. As soon as you come into the room today, folks, and you finish with all your greetings to the edification community, hit that share button. And let's get some people here, some new folks, let's get them edified. Let's get them involved in some undiluted frankness, so to speak. Share. We are in for yet another instructive ride today as we continue to remove ourselves and our nation's affairs from the hands of the gutter rats of the immediate past, to include, of course, the entire period, 1995 to 2022, for the most part. We have to see to it that the old nastiness and, of course, his wench of a faceless and nameless monster are gone, and that they stay gone. I have no doubt in my mind that he's the only person that does not know he is finished, and his decrepit legacy is cast in stone as the most corrupt and dishonest leader Grenada, and by extension our people who have not been paying attention, offered this entire universe. You're invited to be as interactive as possible You know, you're usually very, very interactive. So let's get the move on here today. Let's get the energy in with your relevant comments, your likes, your love, whatever it is you want to do. For those of you who have not yet followed my Eddie Frederick page on Facebook, please do. You can also subscribe to my Edward Frederick YouTube channel and receive your notifications for only positive vibes delivered in my tough love packages straight to you. Trust me, folks, consistency has always been my mainstay, and hence I continue to reap the desired results. I can tell you this firsthand. You see, when you are committed to something and you are enthusiastic and genuine, I dare say, the universe finds a way to secure you. The universe finds a way to protect you from the fangs of all the old nastinesses of our society. Our topic today is the culture of a nation is shaped by the worst behavior of a leader that the people are prepared to tolerate. Oh, God help us, because if we didn't get rid of that old nastiness, we would have been really and truly in hell, because we had already got our personal devil. As per usual, I invite all of our young people, pull up your chair and pay attention. Today's sharing is going to be with you in mind, so that you can know your worth and you can continue to go out there and break that yoke over you. But things are not going to change unless you change. Remember, folks, hit that share button. Expose some of your youthful friends to this meaningful, homegrown, motivational, and inspirational delivery, tailor-made just for you. Allow me to touch on a couple important issues before I get going today, folks. Within the last few weeks, we awoke to the news that one of our very own legal standouts, attorney at law Derek F. Sylvester, has been appointed a judge in the only English-speaking Central American CARICOM territory of Belize, effective 8th January 2024. Sylvester has been known to be a successful legal advocate whose passion and love for the profession can be attested to by his clients and, of course, several of his colleagues. Law, justice, and fairness are considered the fuel for his engine, and accordingly, he zealously represents clients from the magistrate's court to a local high court, up to the highest appellate court, the London-based Privy Council, with 21 years' experience. He boasts of a well-rounded practice that has represented clients in all aspects of the law. This Wesley College graduate went on to receive his certificate in business administration before moving on to the region's premier university, UWI, where he pursued his passion for legal studies before graduating as a full-fledged lawyer. Derek Sylvester is known for his pro bono work on behalf of several citizens who cannot afford legal services, something he says is easy for him to do when he recognizes where he is coming from and the way the universe presented several opportunities for him to be who he is today. Among his several achievements, Justice Sylvester Designate has been a chairman of the Public Service Commission, president of the local bar association, and he held other important positions on boards and management committees of churches and secular bodies. I recently received of his kindness in a traffic matter before Her Worship Kendra Matthew and Stewart, and was well pleased by his active representation, something I would love to publicly record my profound gratitude for. And as long as I live, I will never forget. Thank you, Justice Sylvester Designate. I have no doubt that Justice Derek Sylvester Designate will do well and surrender himself to this position, which he has been actively preparing for over the years, and thus become a total standout arbiter, doing both himself and the position duly proud. I invite you to join me in congratulating him and wishing him great health and ton loads of success. Another area I must celebrate is my discovery that in the midst rather of our doom and gloom, as of course authored by the old nastiness himself. Because every day you speak to that, you hear or listen or hear or utterances, referrals of this old nastiness, you always hear doom and gloom. It wasn't doom and gloom when he was mashing up the place. But now that we're cleaning up the place and we have to take steel broom to see if we could scrub the nastiness that he left, you're hearing it's doom and gloom. But anyhow, all apart from that, we have a nation with a lot of challenges faced by circumstances that we are all too familiar with. But Grenada is still blessed to have some talent roaming around. I was privy to attend a Christmas gathering at Antillean Group on Thursday last and was pleasantly surprised to witness the raw talent, folks, that we have huddled together under one roof. The relatively small staff complement at this our only totally locally owned full-service insurance company was divided into 3 categories: life, group, and general. And boy, were these 3 areas blessed with real cultural talent. I was the judge, so I am talking from first-hand balcony view experience. The camaraderie that I observed, the cohesiveness I was able to witness was mind-boggling. The management of this company, Antillean Group, needs to take a bow for the genuine personal touch they put into the structure of this continuing, evolving dream of the late Chester John, God rest his soul. I am sure he's smiling down on them today. I am sure as day that every time Mrs. John, wife of the late Chester John, sees where that company is today, she must be indeed pleased to be able to compare it to the original vision of her dear husband, Chester. Congratulations to all at Antillean Group for making me a part of your family at this very important time of the year. To Kenny and Lisa John, may your efforts continue to bring you and your able team the rewards you work so diligently to attract. Of course, now that I have shared these 2 important positive developments, I can confidently tell you the culture of any organization or company, far less a nation, is shaped by the behavior and conduct of its leader that the people are prepared to tolerate. Let's take a little break here, folks, and we'd come right back with some heat. So let's take a little come up for air.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Season's greetings. It's Country Cool Stores Grand Christmas Promotion. Spend any amount at our Mini Mart or Wholesale Division located at Penmata St. David and enter to win lots of prizes, wines, picnics, turkeys, shopping vouchers, and in-store discounts. Shop and enter to win 1, 2, or 3 grand prizes. First prize, $1,000 shopping spree. Second prize, $500 shopping spree. And third prize, $250 shopping spree. Promotion runs 1st December to the 20th. Terms and conditions apply. See store or call 440-3335 for more details. It's Country Cold Stores Grand Christmas Promotion.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks, and welcome back. Welcome back. Of course, keep hitting that share button. Let's get some more people in the room, and let's get people edified with some frankness, as, of course, I only know how to deliver. You see, the culture of a nation is shaped by the worst behavior of a leader that people are prepared to tolerate. And boy, did our people tolerate nonsense over the years, from an old nastiness that brought us to our knees when it comes to the utter starvation we suffer in the areas of law and order, real and genuine progress, meaningful development, and anything positive and productive. I thank God that our people have finally started to pay attention to the one they were willing to give chances upon chances, and who started to take them for granted, to the point where all they got in return was contempt after contempt after contempt. This is the same man that goes to church often and can be seen parrying himself in the church as if he is in the proceedings, fooling the shallow among us with the prank-like performances to believe that he's God-fearing and holier than thou, and who instead was and still is the devil incarnate. But thank God that the devil planted in the lives of our Grenadian people has been exposed big times. You see, Proverbs 24, 25, 26 says, a wicked person disguises hatred with flattering words, making their heart deep and concealing their wickedness. When they speak kindly, do not believe them, for 7 abominations are in their hearts. This verse sets out to remind us that not everyone who appears friendly or supportive has our best interests at heart. God exposes the people planted by the devil in your life when he deems it necessary to protect you from their influence. These individuals may be posing as friends, relatives, leaders, or even romantic partners. Their true intentions are to mislead and manipulate you. They try to consistently undermine your faith and discourage you from following the right path. They encourage you to engage in activities that go against your conscience. Be mindful of the company you keep and choose to surround yourself with positive and supportive people, because the people you spend time with and follow can have a significant impact on your thoughts, beliefs, and actions. Time to dump the inferior leader you have followed for years. That old nastiness. You see, sometime back in July 2021, I recall sharing under the topic, what you allow is what will continue. And I recall it riling up some of you to the point where the calls were fast and furious. Some, of course, to congratulate me, and others to warn me to be careful, because that old nastiness could want to deal out sweet revenge to me, as if I cared. I was minded to bother with none, as some of those who were congratulating me were among the highly hypocritical, who were only registering to plug in just in case change came. And while the others were members of the Freddy gang of cowards that the old nastiness had emasculated for all the years he was allowed to be around the precincts of power, inferiorizing, duncerizing, and pauperizing the entire nation so he could be in power till he dead, like he promised himself aloud when he was returning from New York after the 1983 crisis. So you see how on point I am when I carefully selected as my topic here today, the culture of a nation is shaped by the worst behavior of a leader the people are prepared to tolerate. We now have someone of substance to compare the old nastiness with, and they are like night and day. What I continue to be startled by is the thought that people who I went to school with and who had similar upbringing and proper socialization are among the people who swear by this old nastiness. And they swear by him up to today, moving away completely from their solid upbringing to support this crap that almost took the entire nation to the poorhouse on one hand and hell on the other. Their active support enabled him to reign free over this nation with his subpar leanings on life in the absence of a solid and meaningful philosophy to take us forward as a nation. You see, when people hear the word philosophy, they seem to think of it as a highfalutin word that requires some strange level of learning to understand. I beg to differ on that, folks. Yes, the dictionary may have its meaning for the word, but in truth, and in fact, this word relates to simple thinking that runs deep. We have a lot of simple people in Grenada whose level of wisdom surpass the awareness level of many of us who were well schooled. Quite literally, therefore, the term philosophy means love of wisdom. In a broad sense, philosophy is an activity people undertake when they seek to understand the basics of things around them, to include themselves and others, and their relationships to the world and to each other. How many of us are so capable? How many of us have been spending quiet time focusing on the value of justice, integrity, courage, wisdom, discipline, commitment, patience, tolerance to man and their relation to a good society of people? You see, Socrates, the man regarded as the father of philosophy, states that all virtues are one, be it wisdom, justice, courage, integrity, etc. For example, he believes that one cannot be wise without being calm, because wisdom and temperance both have the same antonym, folly. Whereas they would have had different opposites had they been different virtues. Socrates believed that the universe was guided by a God with a sense of purpose, a God that was the source of human consciousness and morality. Not a God to be a part-time worshiper of, but a God of whose ever-presence we all ought to be fully cognizant, using that consciousness to guide our daily actions. So you see the source of a personal philosophy? Young people, what do you believe in? It is quite evident that over the years, especially from 1995 to the 2022 election, many of the simple Grenadians have been socialized to believe in money and material wealth, whether obtained through gainful or nefarious means. Many of you have been taking your cue from the old nastiness. That old nastiness of a leader that you allowed to contaminate your moral upbringing and replace it with his subcultural examples of wheeling and dealing and allowing transactions to become the order of the day. I hold that nothing is wrong with money on its own, in that it is an inanimate thing that we give life to. How we purpose money, in other words, the life we give money, determines who we are, for money is a tool and not to be a master. For too many of us, money is right up there with oxygen, and so we continue to sell our souls to the devil, not realizing that what we allow is what will continue in our very lives. How many of you shoot for money always and end up falling short every time? When the old nastiness pledged to turn me into a bankrupt, he spent so much time and effort trying to use the power of state to hammer me into the ground that he lost focus in the process and was never able to be the leader he would have liked to be considered as, because he had too much hatred in his heart for those who were not prepared to be absorbed by his nastiness. Too many people my age, and a little younger and a little older, supported this old nastiness while he actively presided over the destruction of Grenada, and are today complaining about what's going wrong in the country, as if the nation just stayed so and deteriorated. As long as they were benefiting, they did not have a care about what else was happening. Now that they stopped benefiting, they want to complain about the impact, the deterioration they all encouraged with their blind support for the old nastiness. They want to complain about the fabric of our society. It had a source. There was a leader that you supported who caused the fabric to be mashed up, the one you're complaining about today. You see, and I know a lot of them vex like hell when I say that, because people know a lot of them who went to school with me, who were socialized around the same time like me. But because they were looking for things, they gave up all of them, their values, to go after things. And look at them today. If we continue to be mindless about our way of life, our culture that is, and proceed to go to church because it's Sunday but return home, the same unkind person that got dressed up earlier in the day to pretend to go and worship God, we are practicing habitual rubbish. If we are to say we are worshiping God, we have to remember our universe is guided by a God with a sense of purpose, a God that is the source of human consciousness and morality. You therefore cannot serve the God of the universe and the old nastiness at the same time. You must be confused. In our society today, the 5 bastions or pillars have been badly wounded and mangled by the diabolical leaders several of you mindlessly supported since 1995. You see, look at our parliament, supreme law-making arm of government, from 1995 to 2022 for the most part. For example, suppose this lawmaking supreme arm of government supposed to comprise of 2 levels, with members elected to the lower house and members selected to the upper house. The construct of these 2 chambers leaves much to be desired. I know what I am saying, as the only time you can hear anyone speaking sense in there during that 1995 to 2022 period, for the most part, that we can all identify with, is when they are affected personally and their ego got bruised by their one-time devil, the old nastiness himself. Otherwise, they were just a rubber stamp for the wrongs that were perpetuated in the people's name, as long as they did not affect them. But Grenadians showed that they were not in favor of that rat trap of a parliament resembled when the old nastiness reigned supreme for 23 years out of our then 48 years of national independence. They knew if they did not change their minds and their focus, what they continued to allow is what will have continued indeed. The second bastion of society is our judiciary, our interpreters of the laws, passed by the rat trap construct of a parliament, our negligence continued to perpetuate. The image of the judiciary has been dented so badly that it was only recently it was appearing to be on the rise again, with the current Chief Justice, whose stamp of authority has been seeking to prove its independence. Thank God for Dame Janice Pereira, the recent savior of our judiciary, that has proved that she is no little girl who can be called or summoned to any politician's office or home for a meeting. I would not be surprised that the old nastiness may have tried that, but God put in his place and may have ended up sick with her as a result. She understands her authority and would carry out her duties accordingly. Dame Pereira knows all too well what she allowed is what will have continued if she was mindless enough to allow it. Our police between 1995 and 2022, in particular, resembled what the PRG overthrew and replaced. Not that they were, the PRG that is, not that they did anything better in any case, because we saw where that ended up. However, our police are supposed to be our enforcers of the laws of the land. Yet for all, we can see lawlessness even with our eyes closed. And so we would say in raw Creole, of force, lawlessness is rampant. Very often, when our police act, and appropriately at that, their actions may have fallen or been called into question, rather, by the politics of the old nastiness, making for a freaky situation indeed. Hence the lawlessness, because when a miscreant member of our population can call one of those vagrant-like politicians and get them eased up from pressure, according to them, what can we expect? What we allow is what will continue. Could you imagine the police security detail for resident judges disappeared after the judgment on the pension disqualification case was delivered, and our judges had to fend for themselves while the old nastiness kept calling up the name of the presiding judge on his political platform over and over and over again in his empty rants during the desperate campaign when he had nothing to offer. Allow me to stop here. And when we return, we will share the other two bastions to complete your understanding of the construct of our supposedly democratic society. Folks, the culture of a nation is shaped by the worst behavior of a leader the people are prepared to tolerate. Do you recall the slackness and drain-like behavior of your leader between 1995 and 2022 for the most part? As a matter of course, you must remember, because you tolerated it. Take a break and we'll come right back with more fire.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Season's greetings. It's Country Cool Stores Grand Christmas Promotion. Spend any amount at our mini mart or wholesale division located at Penmata St. David and enter to win lots of prizes, wines, picnics, turkeys, shopping vouchers, and in-store discounts. Shop and enter to win 1, 2, or 3 grand prizes. First prize, $1,000 shopping spree. Second prize, $500 shopping spree. And third prize, $250 shopping spree. Promotion runs 1st December to the 20th. Terms and conditions apply. See store or call 440-3335 for more details. It's Country Cool Stores Grand Christmas Promotion.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wunderbar, as the Germans would say. Folks, welcome. For those of you just joining, thank you for joining. And of course, you know, as soon as you join, just hit that share button. Let's get some more people edified today. Thank you for joining. Of course, the audience is growing. Folks, as my intro to this program today stated, the miscreants of society who missed the largesse that they used to get free when the treasury was available to them, so they could just go in and get at your expense. Because you remember at one time, all taxes were collected in the country and all the money was just being shared for the benefit of those who supported that old nastiness, and the others were starved out. Well, those days are over. Totally over. And a lot of them belly touching their back now. First, they're hungry because they never did anything with the money. They wasted it. They lived well during that period, as if they didn't have to live till they're dead. Well, now they kind of forget. So let's see if we could be a little kind, because we're not so. We will look back for them. We will try to see what we can do to help them. So folks, as I said, we dealt with Parliament, the judiciary, and the police as the first three of the 5 bastions of society. Let's now spend time on the remaining 2. The remaining 2, you notice I chuckled. The church. That's the 4th bastion of our society, totally disheveled beyond recognition and appears to be in total disrepair. What a compromised bunch of infidels for the most part. Their leaders are supposed to be our moral guardians, and what do we have? They seem more focused on their tithes so that their leaders could live good and drive the best cars while they shout Bible verses that they themselves don't even seem to understand at their congregation, and close their eyes to the maladies of the society in which they operate, no matter what appears to be contentious and can lead to protest and therefore upheaval in the country. We never heard a word from them. They have proved to be among the ballsless in our society because they've simply lost their way. You notice young people not even attracted to them. They could not even attract young people. Young people have no use for them today. When the old people that are left that going to church today look like they're dead, it look like we might have to repurpose those buildings. You see, they seem to forget that what they allowed is what will continue, and the community that they get members from will become disheveled and would lose their way. No thanks to any of them. We, the people, delivered Grenada from the fangs of the devil that most of them actively supported. You see how much the church leaders, for the most part, lost their way? Well, the 5th one deserves even a bigger chuckle. 5th and final bastion relates to the media. And all you have to say to that is, oh, Gede. Come on, let me see you putting that in the comment section. Oh, Gede. Lord, have mercy on this one. God continues to save us from the many of them who have become all too transactional. They were so scared of the old nastiness during his reign of terror that they allowed themselves to be emasculated in the strictest sense of the word, save and except for a couple, 1 or 2. They lacked fight, bite, and reason. And until 1 or 2 of them fell prey to the terror of the old nastiness himself, they were never inclined to accept their true role as gatekeeper of our democratic principles. They are supposed to reflect our society, and boy, do they reflect our society well up to today. While they were busying themselves in political transactions for pittance, many of them never developed themselves, and so to read them and to listen to them, hard work. For the most part, they proved themselves as a bunch of cowards, always batting in their crease. Where is the purpose of standing in the gap to ensure that all bastions are kept in check? Where is that? They've lost their way a long time now. So you see, no wonder we have a society that resembles the poor state that this one is in, under the watch of those inferiors posing as authority between 1995 and 2022 for the most part. the media also must be made aware that what they allowed is what continued, and by their very omissions enabled the old nastiness to run amok and roughshod over the entire nation for so goddamn long. Folks, this is so vexing, it isn't funny, We ended up with a totally disheveled society. You think that deep hole that the good Mitchell found Grenada in, you think it's easy to come out of? It requires a lot of work, folks. A lot of work. Folks, we have sinned and fallen short in the area of the high level of vigilance we expect from a nation of fighters and resilient people, from the many slave rebellions to Julian Fedon of 1795, to Eric Gary of 1950-51, to Maurice Bishop and Bernard Codd of 1979. This serious lack of and for vigilance caused many to show their hand as fakes of the past meaningful systems, and who instead became very transactional while hiding behind having a mortgage to pay, while their very omissions and negligence contributed to a con man foisting himself on them, making the place a wholly lawless and lacking in structure and order, as we are seeing today, with poverty and vulnerability having absorbed the entire nation, as it were. Need I say more? Folks, the culture of our nation has been shaped by the worst behavior of a leader. That old nastiness the people were prepared to tolerate. I'm sure many of you will agree that both houses of parliament have become something of interest to us today, as against during the entire period of 95 to 22 for the most part. The other 9 on the government side of the house have no choice but to take their cue from their leader, who is measured, who is temperate, who is intelligent, who is witty, full of piquant, and appropriate with his responses to the various lies and accusations of that old nastiness, who is stuck on the same pages of his devious infantile playbook when he was never challenged by all those who were scared of him for the most part. Folks, a senior government minister that I am not even in touch with sent me a message this morning declaring that the subject matter I am addressing here today is a good topic, as the behavior from the veterans at Parliament is beyond disturbing, and truth be told, the standing orders do not contemplate such flagrant lack of decorum. You know what my response to that is? They are not to be called veterans. They are expired vagrants. The nation rejected, and they are refusing to go. That's what they are. Expired vagrants. They are veteran in only the sense that they were Imanis. You remember they were paid $1,200 a month, with their driver getting 100% more than them. They were Imanis, treated as Imanis by the old nastiness. And then tell all of them eventually, none of them is suitable to take over from him. That's a hell of a joke, you know, folks. A hell of a joke. So having said that, though, it was a treat to listen to the modern day queen of politics and the woman who stands out as the only politician of the period, dominated by that old nastiness, to have the balls to stand up to him and his wench of a faceless and nameless monster, rendering all the men who were one time colleagues of hers as useless as tits on a bull. All the promise the old nastiness made to demolish the parliament when it was his time to respond to the budget fell flat as his rancor, lies, and slackness were not received with the same willingness as was the case when he used to star at a time when that was all the nation knew. We have rejected that today. We have now something else to compare him to, and he comes up wanting every time. Constructive things become easy to accomplish when one succeeds a sweet talker with no real and meaningful intention to support required follow-up action. It is to be observed that since this new parliament and the old nastiness found himself on the other side of the house, with an obviously disaggregated team lacking sensible leadership suited to these times, here so and now, it can be easily noticed that the old nastiness goes to Parliament with a prepared presentation, always, and a behavior that resembles strict orders, not to veer away from it. I'm totally convinced that the old nastiness is indeed wound up and sent out daily, with orders not to return home until he makes a complete ass of himself. And boy, does he do that well. I could imagine how Representative Delma Thomas must be educating her new friends of the subculture the old nastiness used to be embroiled in. Both Grace Duncan and Clarice Charles, with longer relationships and involvement in the NNP than Mrs. Thomas attempted to advise many, I'm sure. But again, because we did not pay attention back then, it had to take a public falling out between MP Delma Thomas and this Slagoon for many to believe. But I tried my best for the last 27 years to advise you all of how nasty and awful this old nastiness has been. And you refuse to believe. You refuse to pay attention. But I'm singing from the same hymn book today. Same hymn book with consistency over the period 96 to all now. Now all of you paying attention and you're playing your shame and vex, because I am man enough to fess up and reconnect you to my vintage self, to call the old nastiness by his real name, that old nastiness. Folks, he ain't good, and he ain't good long. It was so unfortunate to hear, and more so to read, the feedback from members of the public on the delivery of the longest serving elected representative for St. Mark. It would appear at a time when she should realize that the climate is meet for her to retire. One would have thought she would be smart enough to think that she ought to conduct herself in retirement mode and so try to be remembered kindly, instead of in the quadrant of disgrace with her already disgraced old nastiness of a leader. This woman presided over that constituency for the last 20 years, and it is still the poorest parish with the most poor and vulnerable people in the whole of Grenada. And I'm sure if we were to compare it with other similarly poor parishes of other OECS member states, it is likely to take first prize for poverty. Could you imagine this woman proud to tell everyone that she was the longest serving elected representative and whose lack of effort ensured that the parish never moved an inch out of poverty for all of her long-standing service? Come on, folks. I heard she may have even insinuated that she heard the opposition has to pay tax on their $5,000 per month parliamentary salary, and those on government side don't have to pay. Where the hell is she? Come on, folks. She is one who came out of her way to make sure people understand that book sense is really not common sense indeed. Her insistence on going to hell with the old nastiness tells you how out of timing they all are in truth. Could you imagine that? Now, folks, do you remember this woman, out of probably the lack of consciousness, a qualified medical doctor, sat on a political platform with a man who demonstrated an urgent need for dental work and seemed to have had no problem with that? You all remember that? Folks, I don't forget, you know, I have the memory of an elephant. These are things to remember. How mindless can you be? And then the people still lining up to dip their finger and go and vote for you. You see some kind of stupidness taking place? By the way, you know, folks, I heard recently the inferior pothounds, the old nastiness has trying to fight up to promote him as leader of the soon-to-be defunct National Nasty Party, were heard to express their regret for allowing the love they have for that old fart to influence them to take up the assignment of his wench of a faceless, nameless monster to attack me. They're sorry now. Even the old nastiness is reported to cringe deep down in his soul every time he hears me mention the second edition of the biography of a thief is coming. It is instructive to note that many of the people who make up the majority of our population today actually only know one leader from the period 1995 to the present. And so they would have absolutely no idea of who he really is. In this regard, me coming with all these incontrovertible facts will strip him bare and he would lose his influence altogether. That is the objective. As people like Miss Grace Duncan, Miss Clarice Charles, Joan Webley, and all the other women who were once close to him could corroborate that he ain't good and he ain't good long. The culture of a nation is shaped by the worst behavior of a leader that people are prepared to tolerate. Let's take our break, folks, and we come back with our last and final segment for today.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is EDDIE-FICATION, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during EDDIE-FICATION are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
Season's greetings. It's Country Cold Stores Grand Christmas Promotion. Spend any amount at our mini mart or wholesale division located at Penmata St. David and enter to win lots of prizes. Wines, picnics, turkeys, shopping vouchers, and in-store discounts. Shop and enter to win 1, 2, or 3 grand prizes. First prize, $1,000 shopping spree. Second prize, $500 shopping spree. And third prize, $250 shopping spree. Promotion runs 1st December to the 20th. Terms and conditions apply. See store or call 440-3335 for more details. It's Country Cold Stores Grand Christmas Promotion.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, wonderful, folks. And of course, this being my final segment, I beg of you to listen up. Folks, we really and truly have to come out with a strong arm to pull back this country from where that old nastiness has brought it. He brought this nation to its knees. Could you imagine? We scrambling to find things worthy of celebration. Maybe the government better just celebrate Belmont Estate, Spice Island Beach Resort, Grenada Cooperative Bank, Antillian Group, creative group of companies. You know, what else is there to celebrate, really? What else is there? And this man was happy. We go govern, man. We go govern. We govern what? Wheeling and dealing, transaction. Everything is transaction. Transaction to the point where treated even elected parliamentarians as imanis. $1,200 a month. And he happy with that. When the driver getting $2,400 and want to criticize the 5,000 today. Folks, these people right in their head, coming out on press briefings and telling people about the police, the prime minister today destroying the police force. Well, who mash it up? Who gave instructions to move the security detail of the judges? Answer that. Who mash it up? They're trying to repair it now to bring it back to a semblance of order. And you're talking crap. Folks, just so you have to talk to he, about he, with he, anything concerning he. Because he's just an old nastiness. And we must close we ears. You see Creole now? Close we ears when he talking. Shut him out. Because his brand of politics has expired. They are what you can term expired vagrants. Let them go. And the next time we have an election, show them how much we have grown. We have graduated from their level of nonsense. As I close today, folks, I thank all of you for being a part of today's 196th edition and invite each and every one of you viewing to develop some intestinal and testicular fortitude, enough to present some form of revulsion for the enslavement of your minds, which caused you to think your current standard of living and quality of life is the best you can do. Folks, I never supported this idiot for all of his tenure. And many of you who supported him, your standard of living and quality of life could never match mine. Why? Because the universe saw I was doing something right. And guess what? The universe made a way for my standard of living and quality of life to be maintained at the requisite level to manifest my growth in life, showing you how much there is a God and that this old nastiness is no goddamn God. Many of you up to today cannot mimic my standard of living and quality of life. You don't have my standard. You don't have my quality of assurance or my appreciation for quality in life. You have not grown. You might be worth a couple $1 million. You might be worth some property. You might be, but nothing else because you have no class. You have no structure because you follow that old nastiness and you thought how he living is so you should live. But people frown on that. Decent people frown on that. You see, you got duped. You see, you have to let these people know that this man here has told you that you were born to be that one in your family, to break the cycle of poverty, and that you're willing to do just that. But you have to think independently to be qualified to do that. The same revolution among you don't like to hear about, a lot of you. The revolution gave you that level of empowerment, but then you surrendered it to this old nastiness. Could you imagine that? Folks, where did I get all you? You surrendered all that freedom and opportunities that you had for growth and development, for education. You just turned a blind eye because you wanted things cheap and free. Look at you now. Look at you now. Folks, I am a student of history, and history is not about opinion. I am a child of Garyite. I'm an old Garyite. But the truth is, Gary of the 50s was not no Gary of no 70s. Hello, that's the truth. That's why he was overthrown. He was replaced. All systems come to you with excesses. All. some more than others. Gary had his excesses, but he had his strong points. The revolution had their excesses, but they also had their strong points because they were strong on health, they were strong on education, they were strong on agriculture, they were actually strong on independence. And they came closest to the system of government that was the answer for Grenada's developmental needs. Full stop. But that's a truth. That's not an opinion. And a lot of you have a problem with that. That's a truth. The old nastiness can't hold candle to the PRG. The old nastiness was just an old nastiness, seeing about himself. And you could just look at him and see that he is a phenotype of the devil. That is why he fits so aptly the term, the old nastiness. And because he ain't good and he ain't good long, he was a young nastiness once and evolved into an old nastiness because that's all he could evolve into. Folks, I want you to bear me out on something here. Too many people have been noticing this. Look at the image of our current Governor General today and compare that image with the image of the period 2014 to 2022. And you ought to see a totally different person occupying the position of Governor General in, around, and over the state of Grenada. Our Governor General never looked better. Our Governor General is glowing. She glows every time she appears in public. She looks great, sports desirable vibes. I really like what I see. And Dame Cécile La Grenade, you ought to be commended for the great relationship even the blind can see and pick up between you and our beloved Prime Minister, the decent Mitchell. We could not have seen any vibes like that between you and the old nastiness when he was there. But we're seeing, oh man, you're glowing beautifully. God bless you. Enough on the subject of the glowing of our Governor General. Folks, we can't change the behavior of others, but we can change the way we respond and accept their behavior. Some of us have different roles in life. I know my role. Hey, I'm in it. I'm sitting in my purpose, whether you like it or not. You have to let people know that you are to be respected and held in high esteem, so they will stop every attempt to continue to insult your intelligence. Assert yourselves, young people, by standing up and being counted. The time to say enough is enough has already been registered on June 23rd, 2022. This is your time. Over 60% of you under 35, you know, the median age in Grenada is 35. You are called to action. Remember, the change you desire is within you. As you need to become the change you want to see. What you allow is what will continue. And you are quite aware that for far too goddamn long, the culture of our nation has been shaped by the worst behavior of a leader, that you are no longer prepared to tolerate that old nastiness. That simply means you love and respect yourself enough so that you can discontinue, reject, refuse anything that you should no longer allow in your life, including people, political gimmickry, lies, old talk, slackness, smut, and grandstanding. Sometimes you are so caught up in the routines of your everyday life that you don't pay heed to simple, obvious solutions within your grasp. These can make a world of difference to things you always wanted to change, but you didn't know where to begin. Folks, I want to beckon you to start by asking these 4 essential questions. What are you allowing? Is there any reason for allowing it? What is the cost of allowing it? Have you made a new decision or action? What do you allow, folks, is the first question. Accepting the reality in its totality is the first step towards simplifying the knots of worry in your everyday life. You see, if you are bearing the brunt of the excesses at the office, home, or even in a relationship, then it's time to take charge of yourself. Instead of sleepwalking through reality, try coming to terms with it. Only when one chance upon these words, what you allow is what will continue, does one realize that something is totally amiss. So stop allowing stupidness and dotishness to be integral to your life, because that is how the old nastiness will slip into your life and manipulate you. What is your reason for allowing it? If you have allowed something to continue, there may be several reasons responsible for that. While external factors are not in our control, our response to these factors definitely is. What is also significant is the acceptance that often the devil is not outside, but within. You didn't rise to the occasion, and hence what you allow is what will continue. But here are some reasons to consider. Self-neglect. Have you been neglecting your health and well-being? Of course you are, because our life expectancy is proof of it. 69, 1 year short of the biblical prescription of 70. Hello? Folks, get yourselves together. You have been neglecting your health and well-being. How about self-respect? Are you low on self-confidence and allowing yourself to be treated disrespectfully? Of course you are. That's why the old nastiness could have run roughshod over you for all these years. How about self-doubt? Have you been doubting yourself and your capabilities? Oh, yes, you are. That is why the old nastiness could treat you with just crumbs. You see, remember the 3 dimensions of life: health, career, and relationships. And folks, be careful who you form relationships with, because Grenada is a factory for wrong people. A lot of wrong people roaming around, fake people, fake friends. Watch it, folks. What is the cost of allowing it? You see, our every action has its consequences. Ask yourself, what will the future outcome of my present actions be? For example, if procrastination is the problem, remind yourself that it will ultimately result in last-minute panic. Likewise, not taking care of your mind and body will result in illness. Not making the right choices after careful consideration can leave you stuck and bewildered for the rest of your life. You see, what is your new dimension, this decision and action? Once you've identified the problem, the reason, and the possible outcome, it is time to make a decision and stick to it. Are you willing to improve your situation? How determined are you? At the end of the day, don't forget that you have control over your actions. What you allow is what will continue. Folks, my final thoughts here today. What you allow, indeed, is what will continue. So it is time to take over yourself. Time to allow positivity to engulf you. Positivity is a state of mind, and it's infectious too. So take control of your life and steer it in the direction you want it to go, without Mama Guy and Papi Show, while you surrender yourself to a mess of pottage and lose your way. Folks, those days are over. Those days are over. We have no young nastiness around the precincts of power anymore, and no old nastiness. The old nastiness is beating up like a pig, to the slaughter. A pig to the slaughter is ball till it dead. So what you're hearing now is the noise on the way to the slaughter. Fini, done. The old nastiness is in the epilogue of his history chapter, so to speak. Done, fini. Young people of Grenada, wake up and stop continuing to agree with things that insult your soul, for fear that what you allow is what will continue. So I am sure as day, this time for change, because there's no further delays that are necessary. Now is your time. Wake up and stand in line. Take a number and step forward. Wake up and stop continuing to agree with the things that insult your soul, as I said earlier. So I'm sure it is clearer now that the culture of a nation is shaped by the worst behavior of a leader the people are prepared to tolerate. So when the old nastiness comes with its slackness, smut, lies, rubbish, and just gross dishonesty, push that old nastiness back in his hole. Folks, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Type in the name Edward or Eddie Frederick. Subscribe, like, and share. And be prepared to receive your mental multivitamins as straight up as I know how to deliver them. I am in, I am out, I am gone. Thanks for joining. Continue to share. See you next week, God willing, for regular programming. Until then, stay safe, stay well, remain lifted. We may have a slight change next week because, of course, Christmas Eve is a Sunday, so we'll see what we can do. But be prepared for the announcement. Peace and blessings to all of you folks, and all the very best. Have a lovely, lovely week, and stay free of all, unwanted incidents, because this is going to be a very busy week. The traffic is plentiful. Take your time on the roads, and let's just be cooperative. Let's give way when we have to give way, because everybody is going to be, in the throes of getting ready for Christmas. So study your heads and take good care of your wonderful selves. Keep sharing this, because we have a lot to learn in this country called Grenada. So peace and blessings to all of you, and take care of your wonderful selves.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Season's greetings. It's Country Cold Store's Grand Christmas promotion. Spend any amount at our mini mart or wholesale division located at Penwater St. David and enter to win lots of prizes, wines, picnics, turkeys, shopping vouchers, and in-store discounts. Shop and enter to win 1, 2, or 3 grand prizes. First prize, $1,000 shopping spree. Second prize, $500 shopping spree. And third prize, $250 shopping spree. Promotion runs 1st December to the 20th. Terms and conditions apply. See store or call 440-3335 for more details. It's Country Cold Store's Grand Christmas promotion.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper health care and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the country cold store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, country cold store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only